Welcome to the 24th edition of the Panama Interview Series, where we discuss topics regarding foreign direct investment in Latin America and the Caribbean. We are streaming live from the capital city of the Republic of Panama this morning. The Panama Interview Series is produced by Bico Legal and Compliance Consulting, LLC, a Miami domiciled limited liability corporation with offices in downtown Miami and Panama City, Panama. My name is Anthony Robinson, and I am managing member of Bico Legal and Compliance Consulting. Although I am a practicing attorney with a passion for cross-border commercial and transactional legal and regulatory compliance matters in the Americas, as well as a passion for the languages of the Americas, I have long had an interest in the nexus between law and public policy. I earned a Bachelor of Science degree in public policy analysis from Cornell University in 1990 and a master's degree in public policy from Harvard's Kennedy School of Government in 1994. Accordingly, the seeds of the Panama Interview Series have been germinating in my mind for some time, close to 30 years now, and I have journeyed to this opportunity to discuss on a monthly basis topics regarding foreign direct investment in Latin America and the Caribbean with players in the arenas of law, business, and politics. This morning, we are honored to have as our guest Dr. Sandra Carrillo, who has a distinguished background, to say the least. She is professor of faculty of medicine at the University of Panama, in charge of the scientific program of medical cannabis. She is president of the Colombian Association of Medical Cannabis, which is a nonprofit association dedicated to promoting education-based scientific evidence. She's a board member of the Association of Cannabis Specialists. She's a member of the Scientific Board of Portugal Medical Cannabis, a member of the Scientific Board of the Colombian Observatory of Medical Cannabis, co-founder of MEDICANN IPS, which are medical cannabis clinics in Colombia. She's a review board member of the American Journal of Endocannabinoid Medicine. Dr. Carrillo is committed to educating and training doctors and healthcare providers regarding the benefits of medical cannabis, the possibilities and promise of the endocannabinoid medicine system, the existing scientific evidence supporting medical cannabis, and the need for more competent and reliable scientific studies, and the disparities in access to endocannabinoid treatments. This morning, we will discuss developments in the regulation of cannabis in the Americas. We have several topics to cover in the time that we have allotted this morning. Please put your questions in the chat, and I will submit them to our guest afterwards. Let's jump in. Dr. Carrillo, how are you doing this morning?
Good, thank you, Tony. Very happy to be here today, this morning. Good morning, everybody that is listening and watching us.
Thank you so much for taking the time. We're honored to have you as a guest. I just want to jump in because we don't have much of your time. I'd like to start, if you could tell me, please, what called you to the specialty of endocannabinoid medicine and the use of medical cannabis?
Oh, that's a beautiful question, because my journey started almost 9 years ago. Well, I think it's going to be 10 years ago. I started seeing children with epilepsy, that the mothers were going to other countries to get CBD and cannabinoid therapies to treat their children. And when I saw that, I was curious. As a doctor, we always need the scientific evidence to feel confident in order to prescribe to our patients. But I was seeing more and more patients, the children and the mothers, traveling all over to get a cannabinoid. And I saw how the patients improved, how the seizures were reducing. So I decided to start the quest and find and find the places where they have the best information and research regarding to the endocannabinoid system and the cannabinoid therapy. So I went to Canada. I studied in Canada. I went to Israel, and in Israel I studied, and also in the United States. And then my eyes were open when I learned about the endocannabinoid system. Everything was just like all the pieces were put it together. So I understood why. This curiosity about epilepsy drove me to learning how cannabinoid therapies were good for chronic pain, for anxiety, for patients with spasticity, multiple sclerosis, nausea and vomiting induced by chemotherapy. And this was the way I started this beautiful journey many years ago. And then after that, I realized that I had to share everything I learned, because we need more doctors learning about the endocannabinoid system, since we never were taught in a school of medicine. So I started because of epilepsy patients, and since then I've been learning every day something new about these beautiful things that the cannabis plant can do for the patients, and why responsible prescription is so important to grant safe access to our patients.
And why are we blessed here in Panama to have you as a member of the University of Panama, professor of faculty of medicine here?
Yeah, I started in 2019 with the dean of the University of Faculty of Medicine. He was a visionary, an academic, a scientist, and he saw the potential of cannabinoid therapies and the importance of teaching in all the levels. Graduated doctors. We even gave back then it was just the pandemic starting. We were just lecturing for students of medicine, teaching them more about the endocannabinoid system. So it is very interesting. Also in Colombia, I live between Panama and Colombia. And in Colombia, I made alliances with one of the largest universities in Colombia, and we put together a diploma certification. And we've been certifying doctors since 2019 too. So I have seen universities more prone to discuss with postgraduates about the therapeutic applications of cannabinoids. And even last year, the Colombian College of Physicians contacted me asking me to create an educational program. So when I saw this, I say, we know we're going through the right path because the scientific and the medical community is asking for education. And the key point in here is that we do education based on scientific evidence, and this is the language. You need to talk to doctors that they are skeptic or that they have stigma and the scientific community. So it has been teaching one of my main missions. I have the fortune to be invited as a professor of different diploma certifications in different countries in Latin America, such as Mexico, Brazil, Ecuador, Colombia. So we're trying to educate all Latin American doctors regarding to the endocannabinoid system and therapeutic applications of cannabinoid medicines. I think there's still a lot of work to do, but we have an important force now of doctors that they are more aware, and they really want to learn more about this subject.
That's wonderful. And, this is a very interesting time to have our conversation, because the regulatory landscape across the Americas, really from Canada to Uruguay, is changing with respect to medical cannabis and cannabis-derived products, CBD. And in that regard, there is a conference that is going to happen in May of next year, in 2024, called Latin Cannabis, really the first of its kind. It's going to be, I'm going to let you speak about it. What is Latin Cannabis, and what's its mission, and what will be your role in the conference? It's going to take place here in Panama.
Yes, very excited because, as I mentioned, education is the key to destigmatize the use of cannabinoid therapies. The Latam Cannabis is a conference, a very unique conference, and is one of the only conference that we have in Panama. We had it a few years ago, and it was last year. We had a lot of participation from government officials, from the scientific community, from international speakers. And basically, the conference wants to do education, talk about regulation, and through the conference also help the country to move forward with the all what is about the landscape of medical cannabis in a country. So I am very excited, and I invite everybody to come next year to Panama, and not just to enjoy this beautiful country, and just also to learn about all the new topics the Latam Cannabis 2024 will bring to all the people in the industry that they want to learn about this subject.
And what will you be presenting on? What will be your topic?
Well, I'll be talking about numerous things. I will be talking about the endocannabinoid system, about scientific evidence, side effects, and safety, and also about the regulations, because Panama has a very particular and robust law that it was approved 2 years ago, and we're waiting for regulation of the law. But I think it's going to be one of the best laws in Latin America, because it's very robust and is very well done. I had the opportunity to participate and all the time when it was at the National Assembly, at the Congress. I was invited to speak in front of the full House of Congress before medical cannabis was legal. We were like doing advocacy for almost 5 years before legalization, and we finally the government finally approved medical cannabis 2 years ago. So it was beautiful, all the journey, but finally Panama has a very robust law that we're waiting for being implemented. So it's a very good law for Panama and for the patients mainly.
Right. And, we mentioned that the landscape within the Americas with respect to the regulation of medical cannabis is changing. And in the US last week, the Federal Department of Health and Human Services recommended officially that cannabis, marijuana, be removed from Schedule 1 and reclassified under the US federal law as Schedule 3. In other words, cannabis would be removed from the category reserved for the riskiest drugs, such as heroin, LSD, and moved to the classification for prescription drugs. The decision to reclassify cannabis ultimately resides with the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and the process could take months. In the United States, on the state level, 36 states and 4 territories and the District of Columbia have legalized medical marijuana, or the use of medical cannabis. How is this development affecting your work and the development of laws and regulations throughout the Americas, particularly in Latin America?
Well, I definitely think that everything that happens in United States affects us in Latin America, definitely with more relaxed or less stringent regulations, or the reclassification. Probably we will have better opportunities for doing more research, for doing more education, and definitely, and the most important thing, better access for the patients. So I think is very important, because will allow the patients to have access to treatments, and to be able to do consultations with the doctors, and being followed up by the doctor, and having also in the countries more research. That is something that even though that all over the world is research published every day. It's important that we are able to conduct more research.
Right. One thing I learned in studying you for this talk was that cannabis has been a part of the practice of medicine for a very, very long time, and prohibition is a relatively new thing with respect to cannabis. Am I right that it was in the 1930s that it was that the prohibition took place in the United States? So the question is, is reclassification enough when we have a cultural construct that has been shaped by prohibition, meaning we have a stigma to cannabis use that is not associated with the long history of it, just the very short recent history. But without declassification, that stigma continues. Do we need declassification really to fully embrace the potential of medical cannabis?
Well, definitely, if we're talking about medical cannabis, more barriers that you have for prescription and for research are not the ideal thing. The ideal thing is that we will be able to have not all these restrictions. Definitely, I understand there is some substances that they have to be controlled, but definitely the cannabinoid therapies, they have so much potential. And I think that if there is a lot of regulations that is not allowing us to achieve the full potential of what we can achieve in research and also in education and access. So I definitely think in the ideal world, it will be less strict, the classifications, and more relaxed, the safe access. But in terms of medical cannabis, I always says the safe access is granted through prescription and monitorization of the doctor. So medical cannabis, as the name says, medical, it has to be prescribed and monitorized by a doctor in order to be a treatment where the patient will be benefit.
I know that you are an advocate for the development of more scientific evidence to prove up the efficacy and safety of medical cannabis. How will the reclassification facilitate that?
Oh, definitely will facilitate this a lot, because we will be able to submit more research, randomized placebo-controlled trials, and more doctors and scientists will be encouraged to do this, because now since the classification that we have, actually a lot of doctors don't even want to work with the plant, because it's so much control, it's so much regulation, and it's very hard to pass the bioethical committees before you start with the protocol for the study. So definitely will impact the research, and we will have more and more research, more and more scientists that they will be encouraged to start doing research, since the regulations are more relaxed.
Very good. We hope that process doesn't take too long. The next thing I would like to talk to you about is the legal status of cannabis in Latin America and the Caribbean. So much is in flux, and there's been so much development within the last, I'd say, 3 to 5 years. I'd like to, as you are an expert, please, inform us, what are the countries within Latin America and the Caribbean where medical cannabis is legal? This chart is a jumping board to that conversation. It's not meant to be, a benchmark of any sort. But what are the countries where medical cannabis is legal?
Yes, yeah. Well, as we were talking before, in the map says the Panama. Right now, they say in the map there that is illegal, but right now medical cannabis is legal in Panama and in Costa Rica. Basically, the only countries in Latin America that medical cannabis, we're talking about medical cannabis, is not legal, is Bolivia and Venezuela. And in Central America, the only countries that have medical cannabis legal is Panama, Costa Rica, and Mexico. The other Guatemala, Salvador, Honduras, not legal yet, but the rest of the country, Latin America, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, all those countries, medical cannabis is legal. I see, and I'm very excited. I just came back 2 days ago from California. I was speaking at UCLA, and we were talking about the regulations in Latin America, and I feel very pleased to see how Latin America is leading a lot of initiatives in education and in access for the patients, because in Latin America, most of the Latin American countries, doctors, we can prescribe medical cannabis. As you may know, in United States, doctors cannot prescribe medical cannabis because of the regulations. They can recommend, but in Latin America, we can prescribe. We can issue a prescription, and we have regulated products that they are regulated by the government, by the Ministry of Health. So, for example, in Colombia, I have clinics, so we see the patients, we issue the prescription, and there is pharmacies that they have the approval of the Ministry of Health, and the medication, in this case, compound pharmaceutical or magistrate preparations, they are dispensed for the patient. So we have the whole system working very, very well. And I know this is a fact also in other countries in Latin America. So we're having a big advantage in the Latin American countries in prescription and in dispensation through pharmacies, which makes for the doctors and for the patients a good way to have safe access, and we can follow up our patients. There is some countries they have registries for patients that are users of medical cannabis, and registries for the doctors. And as I mentioned before, that is extremely important, regulated products. So when we are prescribing to our patients, we know that the products are being monitored by the Ministry of Health of the different countries. So that's when I talk about safe access, and the let's say preparations with more than 1 or 2% of THC. They are controlled substances, but they are a product that we can be safe, knowing that they have good quality, because they are monitored by the Ministry of Health. So, I am very pleased with Latin American regulation. A lot of countries in Latin America are doing the right things, and we are moving forward in regulations too, and education. I see efforts. As I mentioned, I had the opportunity to be invited as professor of different diploma certifications in alliance with different universities of Latin America. So I see universities also moving forward with education for doctors, because they realize the medical cannabis is an alternative that as doctors we have to have in our toolbox. So, and if for those doctors that don't care about prescribing, they still need to learn about the endocannabinoid system, because they're going to receive patients in their practice that they may be already taking medical cannabis because another colleague prescribed it. So we have to know about the drug-drug interactions, side effects. So it's part of what a doctor need to do, and is to be updated, and learning about the endocannabinoid system is something extremely important.
I've learned that the focus of yours is connecting all these different initiatives within Latin America to promote the use of medical cannabis. Is there any structure within the region that does that outside of your efforts to bring some sort of collaboration among all the countries and their policies and regulations?
Well, we have, as I mentioned, and I am very pleased because I started in 2018 the Colombian Medical Cannabis Association. I am a co-founder, and I have seen how